storm tears across a distant world as a battered freighter crashes down. Inside its cargo bay, a fragile dragon lies broken and chained. And hidden nearby, a 10-year-old girl listens in horror as she learns the creature will be sacrificed at dawn. What happens when innocence collides with cruelty, and a single choice could change the fate of an entire colony? If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video and tell us where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The freighter's hull rattled like loose coins in a tin as it fell through cloud and grit toward Kethra 9. Winds rammed the metal skin. Cables sang in complaint. Lights flickered along the cargo spine. In a corner of the bay, a reinforced cage hummed with an electromagnetic coat, faint and steady like a caged winter. Inside, the small dragon pressed itself into shadow. Its ice-pale scales should have glimmered blue and silver, but weeks of rough hands and rougher transit had dulled them to ash. One wing bent wrong, folded too sharply, as if pain were a hinge that wouldn't open. Vardlock, all hard boots and harsher bargains, thumped the cage with the side of his shoe. "Quiet," he muttered, as if cruelty were a kind of order. The bars carried his kick like a bell. The dragon winced and made no sound at all. Vard strode off, counting credits that hadn't yet arrived. 2 thin walls away, she had slipped aboard at a distant port, because stories had promised her star-bright adventures. The reality tasted like metal, air, and worry. She had been found, scolded, and locked in a supply berth, until Kethra 9, Vard had said, with a look that told her those words were less a plan and more a warning. Talia pressed her ear to corrugated steel and listened. Voices moved past like cold water. She caught phrases the way one catches a falling plate, barely and with desperate fingers. "Ritual of the turning flame," someone said. "Dawn delivery. Pure life yields harvest." She had read enough in her school netbooks to know old customs sometimes sprouted on new worlds. Some grew into kindness. Some twisted into fear, shaped like tradition. The ship shuddered into landing. Through a vent slit, Talia saw Dawnspire, domes stitched with solar plates, walkways between containers, a central ceremonial hall that gleamed with torch glass. 8,000 lives pressed into this little play. She imagined the dragon on a platform, a crowd asking the old stars for luck in the oldest way. Vard's boots passed by again. "Move the cargo," he told Rusk, the pilot, whose voice always carried a hint of gentler roads. "The ritual is at first light." "And the girl?" Rusk asked, soft. "She's family." "She's a problem," Vard said. Metal clicked, locks seated. "I handle problems." Talia's heart went tight. She stared at the ceiling grate and the small screws that held her world in place. Bastiwis, a whisper of hope, and stubborn hands. These were her tools. The first screw fought. The second complained. The third came loose with a surprised sigh, and the last fell into her palm like a small silver seed. She pushed the grate aside and hauled herself up. The vent was narrow and cold. Every shuffle echoed. But fear has a twin named Purpose, and purpose kept her moving. She dropped into the cargo bay after what felt like an hour and found the cage gone. The ship's rear ramp gaped like a mouth. Outside, music and laughter floated in dry air. Talia slipped into the night and hugged the line of buildings, a small figure sewn into larger shadows. Dawnspire's central dome breathed gold light. The main doors were watched by robed figures, faces hidden more by habit than malice. Talia circled the dome until she found a maintenance hatch and, above it, a vent left slightly open to pull heat from the room. She slid in, guided by torch glow and a low, steady hum. When she peered through a slatted opening, her breath snagged. In the center stood a platform of stone and steel. The small dragon lay there, bound by arcs of light that crackled where they touched scale. Around it, people moved in a slow circle, the rhythm of their steps older than any of their names. Elder Sevan Kal lifted a ceremonial blade, whose edge drank firelight. He began to speak about gratitude, protection, and the price of plenty. Talia's fingers clenched on the vent rim. Somewhere behind her, a memory surfaced, a teacher who said, "We don't inherit wisdom, we choose it." Talia felt the choice in her throat. The vent cover tipped. It clanged onto storage crates below. The sound skittered across the dome like a startled lizard. Heads turned. Talia slid down, stumbled, and ran toward the platform before fear could pin her feet. "Stop," she cried, small voice amplified by a hall used to echoes. "Please don't hurt it." The chant faltered. Torches hissed. Elder Seven paused, blade half raised. Talia climbed onto the platform, placing herself between the bright edge and the small, cold body. Up close, she saw the dragon's eyes, clear, aware, and tired in a way that made her chest ache. "It's not a thing," Talia said. "It's someone." And then the hum changed. The new tone started low, like a note a hill might sing if it loved the wind. It trembled through the floor, through Talia's shoes, and climbed into her bones, where it shivered into wonder. The dragon's scales brightened shade by shade, frost waking into morning. The light clamps sparked like stubborn fireflies, gagged, and then snapped with tiny sounds, as if glass were remembering how to become sand. No one moved. Even breath seemed loud. Elder Seven lowered the blade a finger's width. The robed circle loosened, ritual posture surrendering to human uncertainty. Talia reached out because the note in her body tugged her forward. Her palm met cool scale. The world widened. Not with words exactly, but with images sewn to feelings. A white-blue sky with drifting crystals that caught light like secrets. A nest ledge sculpted by careful claws. A sudden crackle and net. A weight of grief. A slow, patient hope that refused to blow out completely. Talia gasped and didn't pull away. A thread of song had tied them together, and with it came understanding. The dragon wasn't a monster or a myth. The dragon was Kairoth, small and brave and aching. Someone whispered near the back, "Is the child a singer?" Another voice murmured, "Old tales spoke of song mines." Elder Seven looked older in the firelight, lines deepened by doubt. "Child," he said gently, "step aside. Harm is not intended, only balance." "Balance isn't a blade," Talia said, and she didn't know where the courage came from except maybe from the dragon's song under her skin. "You keep the lights on with tools and knowledge, not with endings like this. If you listen, you'll hear it too." Murmurs rippled. At the dome's side door, boots thudded. Vardlock came in with 2 crew, anger marching ahead of him. He took in the scene, the broken clamps, the girl on the platform, the elder faltering, and his mouth thinned into a line that looked like a locked door. "Enough," Vard said. "The cargo is mine. The contract is yours. Finish it." Rusk, the pilot, stopped just behind him, eyes on Talia. Their gazes grazed like flint, and something almost fire lit there. A quiet decision hardening. "Vard," Rusk said softly, "she's a kid." "She's trouble," Vard snapped. He put a hand near the weapon at his belt, not drawing it, just letting its shape say the rest. Kairoth lifted its head. The notes slid into a new chord, soft but undeniable. Torches tilted. Shadows leaned. Talia's palm pressed more firmly to scales. She felt the dragon gather a memory like a pearl in its mind and offer it outward. Elder Seven hesitated only a heartbeat, then stepped closer and reached out with trembling fingers. When his hand touched Kairoth's neck, he sucked in air like a man surfacing. His eyes went wide, then wet. He stood there for a long moment, while the dome seemed to wait with him. When he finally stepped back, backbite. His voice had lost ritual polish and found an ordinary tenderness. "I was wrong," he said. "We were wrong." He looked around. "This being knows fear and joy as we do. It is not our offering. It is our moment to choose who we want to be." A hush swallowed the room and then released it in shuffling feet and nervous coughs as more colonists edged forward. One by one, they touched scales and flinched at the shared flash of net and pain and home. Their faces softened into something like apology. Vard started to back toward the door. Rusk shifted to block him. "Not this time," Rusk said, calm as a leveled horizon. "Move," Vard hissed. "No," Rusk said, and the small word had weight. Two wardens of Dawnspire stepped in from the entryway, their badges simple discs of hammered metal. "Vardlock," one said, voice even. "You're under hold for trafficking a thinking creature and endangering a minor." "Adges won't feed your farms," Vard sneered. "Ritual does." "Farms run on water and work," Elder Seven said quietly, "and on refusing to pretend the dark is light." Hands closed on Vard's wrists. He fought for 3 angry seconds, then sagged under numbers and the room's slow turning against him. As he was led past, he glared at Talia. "Your parents will—" "They'll be scared first," Talia said, voice small but steady. "Then they'll be proud I didn't look away." Kairoth eased off the platform. The wing that bent wrong flexed with a wet pop that made many wince. Talia felt pain that wasn't hers and breathed through it with the dragon, sending the idea of comfort the way one might send a blanket across a hallway. Dr. Keita Morrow hurried forward, short hair tucked behind ears, medkit in hand. "I've treated bruised pride and broken machines," she said, kneeling, "but I'll happily learn how to splint a miracle." Careful hands examined bone and muscle, not beyond mending. She announced. The dome exhaled. Someone unlatched a side gate and guided the crowd out, torch by torch, until only a handful remained. Elder Seven, Dr. Keita, Rusk, 2 wardens, Talia, and the small, fierce life that had changed the shape of the night. "Come," Elder Seven said at last. "We will keep watch until sunrise, not as priests, but as people." Talia sat beside Kairoth and leaned her shoulder to its shoulder. Outside, Kethra Nine's winds combed the rooftops. Inside, a girl and a dragon hummed back at the storm, and the storm, for once, did not win. Morning found Dawnspire blinking at itself, the way a person does after crying, raw but clearer. The ceremonial dome's torches were replaced by soft lamps, and the platform became a table for blankets and bowls. Kairoth accepted water, then food, then a gentle brace that held the healing wing just so. Talia helped Dr. Keita by handing tools and asking questions the way curious hearts do. Which is to say, without stopping, Elder Seven set aside the ritual blade and carried in a toolkit. When someone asked what he was doing, he answered, "Beginnings need building." He bolted a heat panel to one wall, installed moisture catchers along the rim, rigged a perch that looked like a staircase for flight practice later. It felt like a prayer made of wrenches. News traveled to Talia's parents faster than ships. A relay call shone to the dome's small screen, and her mother's voice trembled through static. Talia expected anger. What came was relief poured over caution. "We're coming," her father said. "Are you safe? Who is with you?" Talia described Elder 7, Dr. Kita, and Rusk, who had turned in his pilot's badge that morning, and asked the wardens for honest work. "We made mistakes," Rusk told the wardens. "I'd like to start paying them back." Children from the settlement arrived with trays of fruit, folded cloths, and drawings of dragons that looked vaguely like birds wearing crowns. Kairoth watched them with bright curiosity, and when a small boy tripped, the dragon extended its good wing as if to steady air itself. Laughter replaced the echo of last night's fear. Dr. Kada listened to Talia's description of the shared images, then set up a quiet corner with a recorder. "Show me," she said gently. Talia placed her hand on scales, closed her eyes, and let the song thread carry scenes through her mind. Polar lights over Auraglass. Crystalline spires carved by centuries of wind. The pattern of constellations as seen from a ledge of ice. Kada asked soft questions, sketching star maps by feel and inference. "Home isn't just coordinates," she murmured, "but coordinates will help us return someone to someone." In the afternoons, Elder Savan stood in the square and spoke to anyone who would listen. "We carried a story across the stars and let it run our lives," he said. "But stories are tools, not masters. A better story starts today." Some nodded, some frowned. Change always has a few splinters, but people still picked it up. By the third day, Talia noticed a restlessness under Kairoth's calm, like a river beneath ice. She understood it without needing words, the call of a sky that smelled like home. When she told Dr. Kada, the doctor smiled sadly. "Healing isn't just bones," she said. "It's belonging." That afternoon, a message pinged the dome from the outer relay. Envoy Mira Selene from Auraglass appeared on a pane of light. "Features clear and kind. We received your transmission," she said. "We are grateful beyond measures we have words for. We will come." Dawnspire began to plan for goodbye. They sewed travel blankets lined with heat, prepared nutrient packs suitable for dragon digestion, and argued gently about what kind of songs might make good gifts. Elder 7 proposed a simple melody built on the heartbeat rhythm of the dome. Children added hand claps. Dr. Kada insisted the song include rests. "Silence is part of the music," she said. No one disagreed. On the 7th day, Talia's parents landed on Kethra 9 in a chartered shuttle that squeaked every time it breathed. They rushed into the dome and folded Talia into arms that smelled like coffee and ozone. Tears happened, as they do. Promises layered over apologies, and then they all turned to Kairoth, who watched with polite interest. "This is Kairoth," Talia said, a little shy now that the two halves of her life had collided. "He's my friend." Her mother studied the small dragon for a long moment. "He looks like winter learning how to smile," she said softly. Talia's father nodded, eyes damp and kind. The introductions needed no more words than that. That night, under a sky that finally remembered to be gentle, Talia lay awake on a cot beside the perch. "Will you miss me?" she asked, not sure if asking would make leaving harder. The answer arrived as a collage of feeling. A warm rock in morning sun, a handprint in soft snow, a long road that still keeps sight of the house. She smiled into the dark. Some bonds don't break. They simply become longer. In the days that followed, Dawnspire shifted its gears. The dome's old symbols came down, not with anger, but with thanks for getting them this far. In their place went simple carvings of seeds, hands, and open doors. Elder Seven drafted a new gathering, not a ritual exactly, more a promise remembering. Each year, they would tell the story of the night a small life made a big room in their hearts, and they would count their harvests in acts of care, as well as in grain. As if answering a cue from that promise, the sky filled with a soft thrum one morning. Sleek ships from Auriglass, white with veins of faint blue, like ice laced with light. Dawnspire gathered, and the air felt like the moment before rain. "Ready?" Dr. Kada asked, fingers gentle on Talia's shoulder. "As I'll ever be," Talia whispered, and meant it. The Auriglass envoy ship settled like a feather finding its spot. Ramps extended, and envoy Mira Solane emerged with a small group of caretakers in coats that looked woven from frost. Behind them walked two adult dragons, tall and gleaming, their scales not one color, but many, shifting from violet dusk to gold dawn as they moved. Their eyes held the map of 1,000 mornings. Kairoth stood very still, and then all stillness broke. A sound like sunlight after rain poured from his throat, answered by the adults with harmonies so lush the air itself seemed to soften. The little dragon bounded forward, pressed against the larger chest of one adult, then the other, and tucked itself beneath a protective arch of wing. Talia felt the joy as if someone had flung open every window of her heart at once. Envoy Mira approached Talia and her parents. She knelt so her face was level with the child who had changed the story of 2 worlds. "I am grateful to meet you," she said. "Kairoth has sung your name to us." "He sings in pictures," Talia said, smiling. "Yes," Mira replied, smiling back. "Your pictures are bright." Elder Seven stepped forward, no longer in ritual robes, only in work clothes dusted with sawdust and hope. "We welcome you," he said simply. "We are learning." "Learning is the oldest magic," Mira said, and the word felt less like the old kind of magic and more like the kind a person makes with patience and good tools. Farewells have many forms. Dawnspire's was a circle of hands around Kairoth, a song learned in a week and meant to last a lifetime, and a bundle of gifts, heat-lined blankets, a little wooden spiral carved by a child, and a recording of Dr. Kada saying, "Eat, rest, stretch, repeat." Talia pressed her forehead to Kairoth's brow and closed her. She saw crystal canyons and long flights, and the way snow can throw back light at dusk. He saw a girl under copper lamps, the dome made gentle, and the certainty of being remembered. They both breathed out, and the breath was a promise. Kairoth lifted his muzzle and touched Talia's palm one last time. Then he turned and climbed the ramp with his family, pausing only to look back and sing a note that slid into Talia's bones and settled there like a keepsake. The ships rose. Dawnspire watched until they were threads of light pulled into the cloth of the sky. Time, which never hurries and never stops, layered days into seasons. The dome became a learning hall, its walls lined with sketches of species seen and yet to be seen. At the center, a simple plaque read, "Here, we chose to pay attention." Each year, people gathered not to ask the stars for mercy, but to thank one another for choosing care when fear seemed easier. Vard Locke served his sentence out on a distant station. Rusk learned to fly for the wardens, ferrying teachers and medics across rough weather, telling them he owed the sky a few good landings. Elder Seven grew softer in the face, stronger in the hands, and liked to say he kept 2 hammers, one for nails, one for old ideas when they got stubborn. Dr. Kada added a course called listening, and it always filled first. As for Talia, she grew taller in body and wider in heart. Books piled around her like friendly cliffs. She studied how minds meet across species and how care can be a technology. Letters came from Auraglass on thin crystal sheets that sang softly when warmed by fingers. One letter invited her and her family to visit when the time was right. The day finally arrived. Auraglass glittered under her shuttle like a scattered choir. When Talia stepped onto the landing ledge, the air tasted clean and bright. The shape descended from a high arch of ice. It was larger now, wings spanning a house, scales like living winter. The enormous dragon landed with the same joy as before, folding down to nuzzle Talia with care that belied size. She laughed, the sound slipping into dragon song without trying. Students and caretakers gathered, watching as other dragons drifted closer, their heads tilting the way curious minds do. "How do you do that?" someone asked, wonder elbowing the question. Talia rested a palm on Kairoth's brow and answered, "We practiced seeing each other." She didn't add that practice had started on a night when she was very small and very scared and still decided not to look away. She didn't need to. The truth hummed in the space between breath and breath. Later, under Auraglass's long twilight, Talia looked up at the path of tiny ships stitching worlds together. She thought of Dawnspire's little plaque and of the new festival where people held quiet for a moment, listening for the kind of courage that arrives as a gentle idea. Back on Kethra 9, the Learning Dome's first class of children traced star paths without asking them for anything. They spoke of seeds, hands, and open doors. Their voices braided into a future that felt sturdy. In time, history tucked this story into its pocket, not as a caution about rituals or a sermon about progress, but as a reminder of something simpler. Two young beings met when both were trapped, and they chose care. That choice rippled outward, not like a thunderclap, not like a decree, but like warmth traveling through metal on a cold night, steady and certain. And somewhere in a crystalline sky, a dragon flew with a human song inside it, while on a windy plain, a girl looked up and felt that same song move through her. It wasn't about a sacrifice avoided. It was about a vow made, to notice, to listen, to make room. The universe kept expanding, as universes do, and so did that vow, across species, across distance, across time, quiet, brave, meaningful, and endlessly new.